Paul Cancelleri, and I'm the chair of the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board. Welcome to the Memorial Auditorium at the General Galvin Middle School. Welcome to our veterans and their families. Happy Veterans Day. As you enter and exit the auditorium, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect and remember the names and the faces on the wall of honor in the hallway of the General Galvin Middle School. Their lives represent the tragic costs of our freedoms. General John Rogers Galvin, a Wakefield native, served on active duty for 45 years, rising to the rank of 4-star general and the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. He's a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. His military career spanned from 1954 to 1992, serving in both Vietnam and the Cold War eras. His work was instrumental in ending the Cold War in Europe, ultimately bringing down the Berlin Wall. Following his military career, General Galvin became the Dean of the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University. General Galvin was so fond of Wakefield that he set up international seminars for senior officers from the former Soviet Union that included a walk down Main Street, highlighting our town as a premier American town. I'm just going to kind of go through a list of guests. I want to thank the Wakefield Town Council Chairman, Councilor McLean, for joining us today. I don't know, I haven't seen Jonathan Chines, but Councilor Jonathan Chines, Councilor Maureen Butt, Councilor Ed Dombrowski, who also serves as our liaison for the Veterans Advisory Board, Councilor Robert Vincent II, who's a commander and a JAG officer from the United States Navy, retired, Councilor John Carney, who served in the United States Army and is also a Wakefield native, and Councilor Douglas Butler. Steve Mayo, our town administrator, and I haven't seen you this morning, but if you're here, thank you. And kudos for our town clerk, Betsy Sheeran, for all those ballots that she processed and the team processed over the past 4 to 6 weeks. We had a super voter turnout. Thank you very much, Betsy. I'd also like to just point out some of the appointed members of the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board. Daniel Benjamin, who's here in the audience, Robert Ettinger, Joseph DeLolio, Mark Young, Dale Finlay, and Joseph Jacoby. Thank you very much for the work that you do on the Veterans Advisory Board. I also want to just thank David Mangan, our Veterans Service Officer. Thank you, David, for joining us. I am expecting Representative Donald Wong. I'm also expecting Representative Kate Lippert-Garabedian to join us. Representative Lippert-Garabedian has got 2 ceremonies. Representative Don Wong has 3 ceremonies to cover down, so they may be coming in a little bit later. Senator Jason Lewis sends his regrets and is unable to join the ceremony with us this morning. And Congressman Seth Moulton also sends his regrets and is unable to attend today's ceremony. Just a note here, a special welcome to our chaplains for Veterans Day. Welcome Father Michael Rora. Father Michael is the new pastor of Most Blessed Sacrament Parish in Wakefield and the new pastor at Incarnation Parish in Melrose. We also have with us Pastor Brendan Jorgensen, who's the new pastor of First Parish Congregational Church that's up at the top of the lake. Welcome. We have performers of the award-winning Memorial High School Wind Ensemble led by Thomas Bankert and Phil Cataldo, and the Wakefield Memorial High School Treble Choir and Chamber Singers led by Anna Morell. I want to welcome the Scouts from Troop 701. They'll be serving as today's color guard, and to our Wakefield Girl Scouts that will be helping us throughout the ceremony. Good. Good morning to any of the members from American Legion Post 63 that might be here today. They're getting up there. It's a small group. Also, welcome to our first responders, and thank you to our Chief of Police, Chief Scory, and Chief Sullivan of the Wakefield Fire Department. Thank you very much for what you do in our community. Dr. Doug Lyons, I don't know if he's here this morning to welcome us, but I want to thank him for what he does with our Wakefield Public Schools. And I also want to welcome some special guests. Mr. Thomas J. Hudner III, who is the son of late Captain Thomas J. Hudner, Jr., United States Navy, who received the Medal of Honor. Thank you very much, Tom, for joining us today. And I also would like to welcome Commander Shelby M. Nicotin, a Wakefield native, and her family, her husband, Kevin Yost, United States Navy pilot, retired, their daughter, Orla, and of course her parents, Lois and Steve, who are residents here in Wakefield. Thank you very much, Shelby, for coming. The theme for Veterans Day 2024 is a legacy of loyalty and service. Loyalty and selfless service are two of 7 core values for the American soldiers. Our Army defines loyalty as being faithful and loyal to the U.S. Constitution, the United States Army, our unit, as well as other soldiers. The commissioned officer's oath of office and the oath of enlistment are the foundations of our loyalties. These oaths that we took date back to 1789, swearing to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. Selfless service is another Army core value, defined as putting the needs of the nation, the Army, and your fellow service members before your own. If you are currently serving or have ever served in the United States Army, the United States Marine Corps, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, the United States Space Force, the United States Coast Guard, the Merchant Marines, the National Guard, or the Reserves, please rise. You are the legacy of loyalty and service. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and give our veterans a hand. Please remain standing as we post the colors. Scouts, post the colors. Scout Connor Foote of Troop 701 will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The award-winning Wakefield Memorial High School Treble Choir and Chamber Singers will now perform the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early
Please remain standing as I call Father Michael Rohrer, the pastor of Most Blessed Sacrament, to the podium to issue the invocation.
Let us pray. God of our fathers, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, God to whom we turn seeking refuge and strength, you have taught us the law of charity and service. You have called us to strive for justice and peace. We turn to you in thanksgiving this day for all our veterans, who by enlisting have willingly offered their lives in defense of this nation and its citizens. May they and their families always know your protection and your blessing. And may you continue to raise up in every generation men and women with the courage to follow after their example. Amen.
Please be seated. Today we welcome several generations of veterans and their families. To the veterans, please indicate by raising your hand or stand to be recognized if you served in the global war on terror, post 9/11 in Iraq and Afghanistan from 2001 to the present. Okay, thank you. The Gulf War era, Desert Shield and Desert Storm, 1990 to 1991. The Cold War era, from 1947 to 1991. The Vietnam era, from 1955 to 1975. The Korean War era, from 1950 to 1955. World War II, from 1940 to 1947. Thank you all. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your sacrifice. This morning, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the chair of the Wakefield Town Council, Councilor Michael J. McLean. We also have two veterans, just to remind, two veterans that serve on our town council. Councilor Robert Vincent from the United States Navy, retired, and Councilor John Carney. That's a better ratio than what we have in Congress, just to put that out there. Thank you, Councilor McLean, as you come on up.
I want to thank the weather gods for giving us the rain last night and this beautiful sunny day today. I'm Mike McLean. I'm the current chair of the Wakefield Town Council. Bring you the greetings of the Town Council. I see at least three other members. I see Councilor Dombrowski, Councilor Vincent, and Councilor Chines, as well as Town Administrator Steve Mayo, I think Paul pretty much hit everybody, but let me also welcome Major Cancellieri himself, Dave Mangan, the Veterans Advisory Board, scouts, students who are scouts, and all our fine musicians in Wakefield. As a former parent music booster, I know how great our musical programs are in this town, and we are all so proud of it. Welcome, Father Rohra. I do see the Chair, Stephen Ingalls, of the school committee. Welcome. And welcome, of course, to our special guests, Commander Nikitin and Thomas Hudner III. As we know, Commander Nikitin commanded the USS Thomas Hudner. I believe the motto was above all others, and the Surflant motto is into harm's way, where all of our soldiers go more or less on a daily basis. The ship was named, of course, after another Massachusetts resident and Medal of Honor recipient, Thomas Hudner Jr., who exhibited great courage in the Battle of the Chosin Reservoir, intentionally crash landing his plane in an attempt to save his wingman's life, who had also crashed. This is a day when we honor all veterans, Memorial Day. I spoke a little bit about the uncle I never met, when we honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice. But now we honor all veterans because all serve, and everyone plays a part. You have to feed the troops, you have to feed the soldiers and sailors, you have to have engineers to construct bridges, you have to have mechanics to fix machinery. So I would like to thank all veterans in whatever capacity you serve today for your service. And now I'll let you get to the people you really want to hear from. Thank you.
Councilor McLean, thank you very much. And thank you to the members of our town council for all you do in our community. As I mentioned earlier, Senator Jason Lewis is not able to be with us, but he asked me to read the following. I'm sorry that I cannot join you today for the Wakefield's annual Veterans Day ceremony. This is a day when we express our deepest gratitude and respect for our nation's veterans and their families. Earlier this year, I was proud to join my colleagues in the Massachusetts legislature in voting for the HERO Act, which was signed into law by Governor Healy on August 8, 2024. This is the most comprehensive legislation addressing the needs of veterans and their families in Massachusetts history. The HERO Act will positively impact more than 240,000 veterans living in the Commonwealth. Some of the key provisions include increasing benefits for disabled veterans, expanding access to behavioral health treatment for veterans, supporting businesses that hire veterans, updating the definition of a veteran, codifying certain medical and dental benefits for veterans, and expanding Gold Star family recognition. Thank you to Paul Cancellieri and Veteran Service Officer Dave Mangan and the members of the Wakefield Veterans Advisory Board for organizing today's ceremony and for everything you do to support Wakefield's veterans and their family members. Let me close with the words of President John F. Kennedy, who said, and I quote, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them." Unquote, end quotes. Thank you. Congressman Seth Moulton also submitted a letter that he asked me to share with you today. Dear friends, I regret that I cannot be with you on Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a time to come together and honor the brave men and women who put their lives on the line to defend our American values. I hope this day provides us with a forum to put our differences aside, to reflect on what patriotism and service means today. For veterans, service is what connects us to one another and to the country that we love. But our unique experiences can also make it harder for our neighbors and friends to understand the challenges we face when we return to civilian life, from coping with physical and mental health issues to transitioning our career and relationships to the next phase of our lives. With a population of about 18 million, veterans make up 7% of the United States population. When you narrow it down to those who served in the post-9/11 era, that number plummets to just around 1%. That's why it's so important that the veterans stay connected with their communities and that our communities provide the support the veterans need to thrive. I remain dedicated to fighting for the resources and policies to get veterans and active duty service members the support they need so that no one who serves ever struggles to find stable housing or loses their life due to a terrible mental or physical illness. And to our Gold Star families in the audience, thank you for your strength and for coming out on this important day. I want you to know that we are here for you and will always be. To the veterans in the audience, know that we see you. Know that we appreciate all that you have given for our country. And know that I will continue fighting for you here in Washington. Sincerely, Congressman Seth Moulton, Massachusetts 6th District. Next, I'd like to introduce Megan McRoby, Wakefield Girl Scout. Megan will read the Veterans Day proclamation from Governor Maura Healey.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts presents a proclamation, whereas, since the Commonwealth's earliest days, thousands of men and women have served our country in defense of freedom and liberty. And whereas, on November 11, 1918, after 4 years of conflict, the armistice was signed by the Forest of Campania by the Allied nations and Germany, and in World War I, the war to end all wars. And whereas, since that day, every November, people from around the nation have gathered to honor our veterans. Whereas, in November 2024, the world will commemorate the 106th anniversary of the armistice that ended the fighting in World War I at 11 o'clock a.m. November 11, 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. Whereas, there are approximately 300,000 veterans living in Massachusetts. And whereas, in recognition of the sacrifices made by those who have served our great nation, Massachusetts remains committed to supporting its veterans community through the HERO Act, honoring, empowering, and recognizing our service members and veterans. And whereas today we are reminded of the great sacrifices and contributions our veterans have made to our country. And whereas we honor and salute those who served our country throughout the generations with honor, patriotism, and courage. And whereas it is appropriate that all Massachusetts residents remember the bravery of those who served our country, so their dedication and sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of their freedom. Now, therefore, I, Maura T. Healey, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim November 11, 2024 to be Veterans Day, and urge all residents of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly to its observance. Given at the Executive Chamber of Boston, this 11th day of November in the year 2024, in the independence of the United States of America, the 228th, by Her Excellence Morita Healy.
Megan. Thank you, Megan. As a token of appreciation, I present you with the 2024 proclamation from the Governor of Massachusetts. Enjoy. Thank you very much. Last month, the Department of the Navy celebrated its 249th birthday at the Constitution Hall, Washington, D.C.'s largest concert hall, and home to the Daughters of the American Revolution. It's their museum, their library, and their archives. In a brief 3-minute video titled Defining Today's Warfighter, our guest speaker, Commander Shelby Nicotin, spotlighted the accomplishments of her crew aboard the USS Thomas Hudner and their role in keeping the shipping lanes open in the Red Sea last fall, supporting global commerce. Ian, please play the video from the Defense Visual Information Distribution Services.
One of the biggest things we focus when we're deployed is pattern of life. You'll hear a lot of folks talk about that. Pattern of life means what's normal for that day. And on that particular day, it was different. And then lo and behold, we had our first drone that was operating outside of normal patterns and was approaching our ship. As it continued to evolve, we assessed that, quite frankly, this is looking more like a threat than a non-threat, and assessed at the end of the day that capability, intent, and opportunity had been met. And so we acted accordingly. And that was our first engagement. My name is Shelby Nicotin. I'm a commander in the United States Navy. I recently finished my command tour on the USS Thomas Hudner, where you may have seen us in the news for engaging multiple one-way attack UAVs in the Red Sea. One of the most remarkable parts that probably isn't in the news is that there was a first tour division officer as my officer of the deck, and a second tour division officer as a tactical action officer in combat for the first engagement. Those are two very junior officers handling very significant, sensitive environments, and there was no need to swap them out. And quite frankly, I think some of the more senior folks in the wardroom were a little jealous and were hoping that they were in that seat at that time, but the reality was no one needed to be replaced. I should also mention, over half my crew, this was their first deployment. So it wasn't just the OD and the TAO that were young. By and large, over half the crew was very young. Those sailors are making rapid decisions within a very quick time frame and a lot of information that they need to analyze rather quickly as a team. There is nothing more empowering than watching that all come together. Everything we've trained and worked for coming to fruition on that level was dramatic, but in a very empowering way. This was my first command tour on board the mighty Thomas Hudner. For me personally, command was extremely important because it's the first time that I was a mom. So being in 20 years, I've deployed 7 times, and deployment number 6 and number 7 were as a mom. That first engagement, I truly felt like I was watching Orla walk for the first time. My XO, Dave Cook, he was there too. We occasionally would look at each other and just shared a nod. Like, I'm just watching everything happen, all the required reports, all the communications amongst the team, everyone's calm. It was awesome. That in and of itself was empowering before the missile even left the ship. What represents the warfighter in today's Navy is a very efficient, resilient, smart sailor who can handle any situation that is thrown at them because they have the right training and the right knowledge to make the right decision when the time comes. Happy 249th birthday, Navy.
when his Corsair crash landed during the Battle of Chosin Reservoir in North Korea on December 4, 1950. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm hand for Mr. Thomas Hudner III. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to Paul Cancelleri for the kind invitation to speak today. I'm honored to be here with you this morning in Wakefield, which has such a rich history of service to our country and which holds Veterans Day and indeed veterans in such high regard. And I'm honored to have the opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker, Commander Shelby Nikitin. My connection to Commander Nikitin, as was stated, is that my late father, Navy Captain Thomas Hudner Jr., is the namesake of the ship that Shelby recently led as its commanding officer. The USS Thomas Hudner is a U.S. Navy guided missile destroyer that was named after my late father, who, like Shelby, was a native of Massachusetts and who received the Medal of Honor for his actions as a naval aviator during the Korean War. As Paul mentioned, those actions involved his deliberately crash landing his Corsair in the mountains of North Korea in an attempt to save his wingman, Ensign Jesse Brown, who had been shot down behind enemy lines. Jesse Brown was the nation's first black naval aviator and a pioneer and hero in his own right. I first met Shelby alongside the USS Constitution in Charlestown Navy Yard prior to her assuming command of the Thomas Hudner. Needless to say, I was immediately impressed by Shelby, and not only was her leadership and professionalism apparent, but so was her warmth and her humor. These are all characteristics that I have come to know well and to experience firsthand in the time since that first meeting. Of course, that ship and its crew are very close to my heart, and I was excited and honored that Shelby would be at the helm as its commanding officer. Now, while I've gotten to know Shelby well over the past few years, I did not know her back in the days when she was growing up in town. So I wanted to do a little digging to be sure that I could provide the appropriate context about this esteemed native of Wakefield. And my research, in fact, uncovered a disturbing underbelly. Evidence of one of Wakefield's darkest secrets. Shelby was a terrible troublemaker. She was constantly being sent to the principal's office, bullying her classmates, and nearly failing out of school. I know, it is truly shocking. And of course, none of that's true. And in fact, to no one's surprise, Shelby was a model student who not only excelled in the classroom, but was a top athlete, volunteer, and leader. To give you a sense of what we're talking about, let me read just a few lines from an article about Shelby from the Wakefield Daily Item published during the spring of her senior year at Wakefield High. Shelby Nikitin was voted most involved by her peers at school this year. She is vice president of the Student Council, a member of the National Honor Society, peer leaders, captain of the girls' varsity soccer team, and the outdoor track team. As a member of the Latin Club, she attended the National Junior Classics League Convention and was elected publications editor for the Massachusetts Junior Classics League. She has been actively involved in activities that help better the community, which include the Tobacco Task Force and Students Against Drunk Driving. She has also received the Massachusetts Student Athlete Citizenship Award for 2 consecutive years. On the varsity soccer team, she was a captain and also won the Unsung Hero Award. She lettered in outdoor track all 4 years and was voted Middlesex League All-Star and set the school record for the triple jump. Let me tell you, that's just a tiny, tiny sample of what's included in this article. I mean, Shelby, seriously, it's enough to give the rest of us an inferiority complex. From Wakefield High School, Shelby went on to attend Holy Cross, where she earned her bachelor's degree in mathematics while participating in the Navy ROTC program. And upon graduation in 2004, she was commissioned as a Navy officer. In fact, she was sworn into the Navy by another Massachusetts native and Holy Cross graduate, Medal of Honor recipient Captain Tom Kelly. 20 years later, in fact, Captain Kelly surprised Shelby when he presented her with a Bronze Star during her change of command ceremony this past January, in recognition of her extraordinary leadership and bravery while in combat in the Red Sea. Throughout her Navy career, Commander Nikitin has served in numerous roles aboard several ships and on many bases, beginning on the USS Chosin in 2004 and taking on increasing leadership responsibilities before becoming the executive officer of the USS Thomas Hudner, and then in 2022, the ship's commanding officer. Having spent a bit of time with the crew of the Hudner, it was obvious to me that they truly respected, loved, and admired Commander Nikitin. According to her executive officer, Commander Cam Ingram, Shelby's command philosophy was ship, shipmate, self. And she exemplified this through her own actions by consistently putting the needs of her crew, the ship, and the mission before her own. As that excellent video we just watched highlighted, Shelby recognizes her crew's stellar service and abilities and how those are central to the success of the ship and its mission. Like any great leader, Commander Nikitin understands and celebrates the contributions of every member of the team, and her pride in her crew is undeniable. Shelby's leadership skills were tested and proven yet again when the Hudner and its crew deployed to the Red Sea last fall. Indeed, while most of us were preparing to celebrate Thanksgiving with family and friends in relative comfort and safety, the Hudner was shooting down attack drones fired from Yemen. The timing of these incidents and the decisive actions by the ship and her crew served as a poignant reminder that we American citizens are fortunate to enjoy our freedoms because countless men and women throughout our history have fought to preserve and defend those freedoms and the freedoms of our allies abroad. This summer, as Paul noted, I joined the staff of an organization called the National Medal of Honor Center for Leadership, and I mention it only because it is relevant to today's theme. Our mission is to deliver values-based leadership education to students and adults informed by the values of the Medal of Honor, which are courage, sacrifice, patriotism, citizenship, integrity, and commitment. What I believe, and the organization believes, is that anyone can strive to embrace these values and to lead with integrity, trust, and compassion, and that any community we are connected to, whether our families, schools, our towns, or corporations, would be strengthened and enhanced by more of us striving to serve selflessly and to put the needs of others above our own. These are values and ideals that my late father represented and that I believe Shelby represents. Shelby and my father are also representative of the millions of American men and women who have served and are serving. We are fortunate to have many active duty and retired service members with us here today. And on this Veterans Day and every day, we thank you for your service to our country. All of us, and certainly civilians like me, are the fortunate beneficiaries of your service and sacrifice, and we are grateful. In addition to being a supremely capable leader and a wonderful human being, Shelby is the beloved daughter of Lois and Steve Nikitin and loving mother to Orla and wife to Kevin. She is a worthy role model for all of us, male or female, young or old, military or civilian. I hope that today and every day we can be inspired by the veterans here with us this morning and by all the men and women who have served and are serving. I am inspired by Commander Shelby Nikitin, and I'm grateful for her friendship and her selfless service to our country, and I'm pleased to introduce her this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Wakefield Warriors. It is an honor to be home and celebrate Veterans Day with all of you. This year, we highlight the legacy of loyalty and service. I respect legacy as much as anyone in this room, and I'm proud of many legacies. The legacy of General Galvin in this school, the legacy of my papa, a lifelong townie who served in World War II, just as you, sir, and most notably contributed during the Battle of the Bulge and Normandy. But most importantly, the legacy of this town, a very patriotic town I am most proud of. No one personifies love of country better than Wakefield, the bedrock of loyalty and service. Growing up in Wakefield, I saw firsthand what an inspiring community of patriots can achieve. From Little League and dog carriage parades to refurbished war memorials to Porch Fest, to extravagant 4th of July parades and fireworks, and countless charitable events around the lake. No one does it better. My personal favorite, police escorts for school buses after a major tournament or competition win. Even after I graduated, I loved hearing the horns blowing and running to the front window to see a bunch of smiles and hands waving out the school bus window. In this town, one win is everyone's win. Preserving moments like these for generations to come empower veterans to answer the call. To the veterans in the room, thank you for your service. Thank you for answering the call. Thank you for treading the path of those of us that have followed. I'm proud to share the bond of service with all of you. To the town of patriots who have made this town worth fighting for, thank you. You keep the legacy alive. With the recent world events over the past year, there is no doubt that legacy still lives on. When the USS Thomas Hunter deployed, it was the first deployment for over half the crew. In fact, most of the crew complement was under 25 years old, and many were born after 9/11. For a lot of you, that probably makes us all feel old. As young as they were ready for anything that came their way. We were originally expected to return home before Halloween of 2023, but the world had a different plan. After a series of extensions in support of Operation Prosperity Guardian in the Red Sea, we returned home January 4th, 2024. During that time, there were many births, deaths, and many other life moments and firsts that the crew missed back home. But the crew of the mighty Thomas Hunter never complained. They were focused, resilient, and extremely self-sufficient. As a combat team, Thomas Hunter crew was awarded 7 Combat Navy Commendation Medals, 10 Navy Achievement Combat Medals, the Combat Action Ribbon, and the Unit Commendation Medal for distinguishing themselves by outstanding heroism in actions against enemy forces. To receive the Navy Unit Commendation, a unit must have performed a service of character comparable to a Silver Star while acting uniformly as a team. In spite of all those awards, I am most proud of them because even after the 3rd time I told them we were extended, there were no groans, there were no pity parties. This is why we answer the call. The crew was proud, and I realized, like much of the town I grew up in, I was surrounded by warriors. Thank you for being here today. It is so touching to be a part of the community, one where we recognize and celebrate the importance of our veterans and their service. The ceremony and your attendance is a testament to that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Ready, Rob?
Yes, sir. Commander Nikitin, thank you for your remarks this morning and welcome home. We have some students from Wakefield Memorial High School with us today from an AP government class, and they're excited to ask you a few questions if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you have any special memories from your time at Wakefield Memorial High School?
Of course I have special memories from Wakefield High School. It's hard to pick out one, but I feel like it was probably reoccurring. I'll give soccer as a great example. It was awesome after every game, win or lose, the way the parents came together, the way everyone just cheered. You know, you truly felt, and I mean it, you felt like the town was behind you. You know, the wins were always sweeter, but the losses you still, you know, because you had the community to fall back on. You'll get them next time, kid. Don't worry about it. So I would just say the overall just camaraderie at any sporting event. In fact, I should mention, I believe it was 1998, The boys and women's high school basketball teams won the state championships. I think it was the first time possibly in the state's history that the male and female teams won. That was better than the Patriots winning the Super Bowl. It truly was.
Thank you.
Obviously, it sounds like you were part of a lot of communities when you were in high school. Do you have any moments or things that kept with you that led you to join the Navy? Like when you look back, are there things from all the communities you were part of that really led you to where you are today?
Absolutely. So I think any love of service and answering that call certainly starts at home. And I was raised to love the country and the flag that we fight so dearly for. But then on top of it, once I left home and went to school, the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm so proud that Orla knows the Pledge of Allegiance. It's those little things. I remember the veterans coming to the Franklin School when it was still the school and going to all those ceremonies, and it was impactful. And I remember them from 3rd and 4th grade all the way up. I think it's important, and the town never lets us down for those kind of things. All the war memorials, the rededications, the refurbishments. There's a lot of patriotism here. And it is throughout the country, but I'm willing to bet Wakefield has the most of it, no doubt.
How many people were under your command on the ship, and what were some of the different skills they had?
Okay, so there were 350 people. Sometimes it went as high as 380. We only have 350 racks on board, so it made things sporty from time to time. But like everything, you figure it out. But their skills, just like was mentioned earlier in the ceremony, their skills range from everything. You need everybody. You need medical, right? If you can't bite, you can't fight. You need food. You need engineering. You need everybody. So the skill sets ran the entire gambit that you can imagine, and everyone was contributing. In fact, the night of our first engagement, even though Combat Systems got to share a lot of the glory launching that missile, you can't launch that missile without an air cooling system, and that's provided by the engineers. So it truly is a whole ship effort. It is a great team to be a part of a ship underway. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hi, can you talk about your experience in the Red Sea that led to you being awarded the Bronze Star?
Absolutely. I'll talk to what I can speak to. So you may remember, it was all in the news, right? October 7th, we'll never forget. Following that, the Carney was in the Red Sea, the USS Carney, on or about October 15th. And they shot a lot of weapons into the air. And then they needed to reload. And so, like any good understudy, Thomas Hudner was ready to answer the call. So what brought us to the Red Sea was to relieve the USS Carney at the time. We still didn't know the extent of what was about to evolve in world events over the last year. But we were there for presence operations. Just like you've studied in your history, the importance of waving that American flag, it means something. And being there in the event, we need to take action. As I said in the video, there was one night in particular where things just weren't the same. And you'll know that. You'll know that as you grow up. There's a difference between trusting your gut and trusting the hair that's growing in the back of your neck. When that hair pops up, that is your survival kicking in, right? So you need to listen to it. And so on that night, that's exactly what was kind of evolving, if you will. Things were different. Things were not what the normal pattern of the day was. Communications were different. Everything was being noted. And at a certain point, we realized that, just like I said, capability, opportunity, and intent had been met. And when that happens, you need to take appropriate action to defend yourself and your ship. And so we acted accordingly.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What is your best memory as ship's captain?
Now you're really gonna make me cry. So there's a lot. There's an absolute. I think there's a few. So one of the programs is called. There's a merit-based promotion, and that is one of the privileges of being the captain. That every year the Navy gives you a certain amount of quotas based off your team's performance. And you can pick who you want to promote that day. There are some restrictions based off, their rate and their rank, but at the end of the day, you have that power for one day to walk up to that individual and say, you're now a first class. And you have to get to them rather quickly because nowadays with everything electronic, you want to get to them before they check their bank account online and see that there's been a bump, right? But that did happen one time. I think I could tell by his face. I'm like, he knows. He already knows because he saw the money bump. But that is awesome, going around and being able to surprise them in that moment. And then just like here, the whole crew comes together to celebrate their meritorious advancement. That's definitely a high point. I mean, other events, we did a swim call in the Gulf of Oman. That was certainly, that was a very fun day for the crew. And it reminds me that, there's work hard and play hard, and you got to make time for both. It's important. But overall, I would say, yeah, being able to personally promote people beyond just them passing an exam, that was awesome.
Thank you.
What was your most difficult day as the ship's captain? And I know you mentioned that one night with the missile.
So the most difficult day as a captain was probably telling them that they weren't coming home. And I thought it was going to be rough the first time, I thought it was going to be rough the second time, and I was dreading it the third time. But because you never want to be that person that tells somebody they can't come home, right? That's the whole point of us being together here and celebrating veterans, is to make sure that we always get to go home, right? So that was probably one of the struggles, biggest struggle I would say, trying to overcome. But I was so uplifted by the crew. There was no grunts or cries or, oh, here we go again. They were motivated. There was an electricity in the air, and so it was wonderful to see. I know why I signed up, but I'm also, I'm the older lady on that ship. By far, I'm the oldest person on board. So, I was sensitive to, this is a very dynamic environment that we really haven't seen in a lot of years. And I wouldn't have faulted them if they were a little upset, especially folks maybe were planning a wedding or thought they were going to be home for the birth of their first child, and now they're not. Those things that, yes, we sign up for it, but in the moment, I'm sensitive to the fact that it's still tough in those moments. But what was tough for me was not tough for the crew. And in those moments, they certainly showed me that this is exactly what we're here for, and there's no room for tears right now. Let's get the mission done.
Thank you. And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
How do you balance your regular life with being in the Navy?
Some days are better than others. For sure, when we were deployed, I didn't feel like I was the best mother in the history of the world when I'm not at home every night. But you realize very quickly, I think, with anyone juggling a bunch of stuff, you got to make the quality. It's about the quality, not the quantity, right? So any chance you get to call, of course, I was calling too, right? When you could video calls were very few and far between, because we don't have the luxury of being on a ship of having that system set up that we can reach out to families. So I recognize it's very hard in the home front as well, because neither one of us can communicate to each other on these longer missions. But I think in general, just accepting the fact that make the time count when you have it, and don't get wrapped around the axle trying to count the amount of time. That's not going to be productive. And you'll find that it makes it all work and everyone's happy.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. What advice do you have for someone considering a career in the Navy?
I'm sorry, can you say that again, please?
What advice do you have for someone considering a career in the U.S. Navy?
If you're considering it, I'm going to say go for it. Absolutely. I wasn't in 20 years because it was all work and no play, right? Even in the last year, I saw 10 countries in 12 months over the course of everything else that was underway. So I think there's a camaraderie like nothing else. If you do have that wanderlust to travel, I think this is your spot. And if you're thinking about it, I think at the very least, and I know I speak for the veterans in the audience, you'll never regret serving your country. 5 days, 5 years, 50 years.
Thank you.
Yep.
We had heard you'd met the First Lady. Can you tell us about what that was like?
I did. In fact, my husband and my daughter got to meet the First Lady as well as part of a White House dinner leading up to the State of the Union address, where I also got to meet President Biden. It was a lovely experience. Absolutely. The staff and the team was put together. They're used to hosting families. That was very clear. Because we were nervous at first, like, well, at the time, Orla's, 5, I don't know. And they're like, oh, no, bring everybody. The more the merrier. So it was just an incredible experience, even down to the M&Ms that had Joe Biden and Joe Biden's name on them. I think that's probably the high point for Orla. But it was a night like Cinderella. We got escorted in. We had a lovely dinner. And then Ms. Biden went around to all the tables and introduced herself, thanked them, because we were all there from different walks of life. I was the only person that particular dinner in uniform. But definitely felt the connection, that they were very appreciative of what we had been doing out there.
Thank you.
Is there any lessons of leadership that you feel someone pursuing a career in the military should know?
Okay, lessons in leadership. I think first and foremost, keep that sense of humor, right? Even if it's you that makes a mistake, laugh even harder, okay? But more so, I would say, remember that you're always in a learning environment, right? And don't internalize things to the point where it ends up being negatively impacting to you, right? You made a mistake, figure out what you're gonna do next time better, and do it better next time. Just like you would on the track field or on the soccer field, you know, just keep and recognizing that everybody else is learning with you. So a little patience goes a long way, and you'll get there. And you'll be that, you know, elite combat team, no doubt.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Tom Hudner if you can come on up. Remain on the stage as David Mankin, our Veteran Service Officer, escorts Maria Staples, Barbara Schiavone, and Private First Class Charles Denisio to the stage to be honored. Also, Counselor McLean, would you please join us also, representing our members of Wakefield and Town Council. Okay. Private First Class Charles J. Denisio served in the Merchant Marines in the United States Army, and he's receiving a Congressional Certificate of Appreciation from Congressman Seth Moulton's office. Charles comes from a military family. His 3 brothers served in World War II, and 2 continued to serve in the Korean War. Charlie is a lifelong resident of Wakefield, served in World War II as a mariner aboard merchant vessels. His service as a merchant marine gunner protected supplies supporting troops deployed on the European battlefields in World War II. He completed his tour of duty with the Merchant Marines and was inducted into the United States Army with the 13th Signal Battalion. Charles holds the World War II Victory Medal and the Army Occupation Medal, honoring a legacy of loyalty and service. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Charlie. While we're doing the transition, I've got some words to share. We will next present the Medal of Fidelity to Maria Staples and Barbara Schiavone. The Medal of Fidelity complements the existing Medal of Liberty, which is presented to families in Massachusetts veterans who die of combat-related physical injuries. While similar to the Medal of Liberty, the Medal of Fidelity recognizes service-connected injuries related to exposure to harmful substances like Agent Orange and conditions such as the Gulf War syndrome, in addition to combat-related mental illness and post-traumatic stress disorders. The creation of the Medal of Fidelity allows the Commonwealth to recognize the enormous toll that illness and injuries outside of combat can take, not only on service members, but also on their families and their loved ones. This is the first medal of its kind given by the Commonwealth to recognize veterans who have lost their lives as a result of service-connected illnesses and injuries. The Medal of Fidelity represents a commitment supporting our troops after their military service, honoring the sacrifices they and their families make in service to our nation. Maria Staples. Maria Staples is receiving the Medal of Fidelity today on behalf of her late husband, Seaman Johnny Staples, who served in the United States Coast Guard. John was injured aboard ship while at sea. His injury that day aboard ship never properly healed and was so severe that it resulted in his untimely demise. His patriotic service to America served as a national front line of defense while serving in the United States Coast Guard. His duty in the protection of our shores represents a tribute to his great commitment to loyalty and service. Thank you very much. Barbara Schiavone is receiving the Medal of Fidelity today on behalf of her late husband, Sergeant Lawrence A. Schiavone, from the United States Air Force. Lawrence served as a weapons specialist in Thailand and Vietnam, and he was exposed to harmful toxins of Agent Orange and succumbed to complications. His gallantry, by virtue of his loyalty and service, shall never be forgotten. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause. Thank you very much. David, thank you. We're going to need some help from Morgan McRoby and also from Wakefield Boy Scout from Troop 701. If the two of you can go back to see Mr. Ettinger there, he's going to give you something to bring up to the stage. Thank you. Commander. That's fine. Okay. So Councilor McLean and David Mangan, we're going to need your help on this one too. No, this coming down the aisle. They're presenting Commander Nikitin with a bouquet of flowers from the town of Wakefield for her leadership keeping the shipping lanes open in the Red Sea and in the Mediterranean Sea. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Commander Nikitin, for all that you have done. Councilor McLean and David Mangan also have an opportunity to present a plaque that bears the challenge coin of the USS Thomas Hudner, DDG 116, under Commander Nikitin's leadership. You can grab the plaque with the coins on it. That would be good. You hold on to those. They really look good on you. On the commander's coin, there are two lions. I'm going to kind of give you a picture of what we're presenting here. The lions represent strength, courage, and fortitude. They're also known for protecting their own and thrive as a group of hunters. Here they also allude to the late Captain Hudner's valiant actions that earned him the Medal of Honor as he risked his life attempting to rescue his wingman, Jesse Brown, whose plane was forced down by enemy anti-aircraft fire. The lion on the left wears a dark blue collar with the tail number of Jesse Brown's plane, which is 211. The lion on the right has a dark blue collar with Thomas Hudner's tail number, 205. And that's in gold. The gold symbolizes his distinguished naval career. The back of the coin is a tribute to the Corsairs flown during the Battle of Chosin Reservoir by both Jesse Brown and Thomas J. Hudner, Jr. The helicopter on the back of the coin is a reminder. Kevin Yost, United States Navy pilot, retired. Commander Nikitin's husband is flying overhead protecting the fleet. The color on the rim of the coin represents Orla's favorite color. The gazebo is a reminder that Shelby grew up here in Wakefield. Tom, on a personal note, your father's legacy continues to introduce us to many who serve our country. Your dad introduced me to our local Medal of Honor, to many local Medal of Honor recipients. Among them is Captain Thomas Gunning Kelly, United States Navy Medal of Honor recipient for his service in Vietnam. God bless him and the work that he continues to do. Private First Class Walter Carlton Monaghan, Jr., United States Marine Corps, Medal of Honor for his duty in Korea. He is honored in our town hall. First Sergeant Rodney James Tadashi Yano, United States Army Medal of Honor, and Corporal Jerry Wayne Wickham, United States Army Medal of Honor. They both served in Vietnam with the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. Each has a field named in their honor at the Patton Family Homestead in Hamilton, Massachusetts. Staff Sergeant Arthur Frederick DeFranzo, United States Army Medal of Honor recipient from World War II for his service with the 1st Infantry Division. Arthur is one of 10 Medal of Honor recipients that were killed at the Battle of Normandy 80 years ago. He's buried in Riverside Cemetery in Saugus, Massachusetts. In September, his family asked that his decorations and Medal of Honor be displayed in Saugus Town Hall for the public to appreciate. Also on display in Saugus Town Hall are his Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, and most recently, his Medal of Liberty. The Congressional Medal of Honor Society gives the Commonwealth of Massachusetts credit for 265 Medal of Honor recipients. To put this in perspective, there are 3,538 Medal of Honor recipients in our history. Massachusetts is the 3rd most honored for this valor, behind Pennsylvania and New York. Tom, thank you very much for the work you do, sharing the national legacy of valor, honor, loyalty, and service. Thank you. Commander Nikitin, Your recent leadership delivered successful hostile engagements protecting our country and our allies. Both these plaques read, "Thank you for a legacy of loyalty and service." Veterans Day, November 11, 2024, honoring all who served, Wakefield, Massachusetts. Thank you very much for joining us today at Veterans Day in Wakefield. I will. Yeah, I'll call you up. The award-winning Wakefield Memorial High School Wind Ensemble, under the direction of Mr. Thomas Banker and Phil Cataldo, will perform Armed Forces, the Pride of America. We invite the veterans to stand when they hear their service song. Mr. Bankert and Mr. Cataldo, and to our students, thank you very much. That was outstanding. So the next item on the agenda here, Wakefield Girl Scouts will place a wreath in front of the podium. Wreaths symbolize victory, bravery, and peace. In the military, the tradition of wreath laying reflects a reverent gesture marking the sacred ground. We remember those who are currently serving as well as those who made the ultimate sacrifice. I invite everybody to please rise and join in a moment of silence as we remember those veterans that are no longer with us. And this will be followed by the playing of taps by the Wakefield Memorial High School senior Owen Kelly and junior Catherine Slisky. Please remain standing. Pastor Brendan Jorgensen, the pastor of First Parish Congregational Church, will lead us in the benediction.
Good afternoon. Happy Veterans Day. I'm going to offer a benediction from Romans 10 of Holy Scripture. The message is very close at hand. It is on your lips and in your heart. And that message is the very message about our faith that we preach. If you openly declare that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is by believing in your heart that you are made right with God, and it is by openly declaring your faith that you are saved. As the Scriptures tell us, anyone who trusts in him will never be disgraced. Father, we thank you for this morning. Father, we thank you that you give us a hope as we face the pain, suffering, and death of life. And Father, we thank you this morning for the men and women who've run into the face of pain and suffering and death to defend our freedoms. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Go ahead and take your seats. Thank you, Pastor Jorgensen. Our closing song is We Are the Voice, composed by Stan Spotswood, performed by the Wakefield Memorial High School Treble Choir and the Chamber Singers, with Joe Banatini as piano accompanist. Thank you, Anna. Councilor McLean has one last final word here. There he goes.
Commander Nikitin mentioned the how patriotic we are in all of our memorial rededications, and that reminded me, my bad, I was asked to make an announcement just to remind people that currently on May 31st, 2025, we expect to have a rededication on the much improved, and you may have seen that on the Upper Common, Soldiers and Sailors Memorial related to the Civil War, going back some. Some of you may or may not know I'm a recent blow-in, having been here only 34 years. So my people didn't fight with that Massachusetts, any of those Massachusetts regiments. But my namesakes, Michael and John McLean, poor potato famine farmers from upstate New York, did find their way to Scranton, PA to join the 59th Pennsylvania Volunteers. So that's a very meaningful time for me as well, and I thank Councilor Vincent for reminding me about this. I wouldn't want to get in any trouble with the Judge Advocate General either by not making that announcement. And if you'll give me one more announcement quickly, town meeting here, 8 a.m. next Saturday. At least 2 important warrants for me. Article 3, are we going to make the solar-ready Galvin, actually solar? We are proposing to put $1 million array on top of this building with a 4-year payback. Article 4, you will all decide whether the compromise reached by a subcommittee of the town council, composed of myself, Councilor Vincent, and Councilor Dombrowski, will be accepted or not. Sorry to take any more of your time, and thank you all for your attendance and participation today.
I want to make sure he gets down. Okay. In the Army, we call that a PLF, parachute landing fall. Thank you, Councilor McLean. Color Guard. Retire the colors. Thank you, Scouts from Troop 701, for serving as the color guard for today's ceremony. Final note, the next event, December, this is just a public service announcement, but Wreaths Across America will be providing, there's an opportunity to purchase a wreath to support us on December 14th, which is a Saturday. There's some forms outside. You're welcome to make a donation, purchase a wreath. We do decorate the graves of those veterans that are buried at Forest Glade Cemetery to remember, honor, and teach. This concludes today's ceremony. I want to thank you very much for attending. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your performances today. They were outstanding. Everybody is welcome to meet in the cafeteria for a collation of pizza, sandwiches, and drinks. And may God bless America. Thank you.